Nyanga, Runaway Grandmother, made its debut at the Kenya Cultural Center in October 2021. It was quite the adventure for these traveling members of the Kisumu Chorus who never before visited the National Theatre. The opera was purposed to be staged at a much less significant scale. The primary desire was meant to tease a rural audience with a performance of a lifetime in either Siaya or Kisumu counties. The Deputy Governor of Siaya and the lead secretariat from both counties on separate occasions positively graced consultations with Baraka Opera Trust.
Siaya is a land of heroes. Of course, there's a talent that we really need to nurture here in Siaya, which is music specifically.
The unprecedented circumstance of COVID-19 stopped the entire flow of many things worldwide. But as Providence would have it, ideas were still simmering and the seeds beginning to germinate. It became so clear that there was a desperate new interest for more wholesome, longer entertainment to watch at home during the lockdowns.
When I set out to write Grandma's story, I was actually writing the story. I thought, this cannot go to the ground with her.
The research that goes into developing a legacy story can be a daunting task, except that in this case, Rhoda lived with a real-life personality.
Now, really now, is the time that I realize that it is a journey with a purpose, a destiny, and actually it's not over. After the curtains go down, I think the next chapter will open.
The proof that lay in this parchment was obtained from Johanna Rao named Ouko, Nyanga's brother. According to this story, he was sent off by their father, Adele, to learn the ways of the white man. This allegory of 4 generations is an original African story based on a life and character who lived along this river Nyando in the mid-1800s.
Adele, my grandfather, died when I was still very young. The home area is situated where Nyando pours its water in Lake Victoria. And the stories I can tell, how he was a good man with good heart, so he was a medicine man. My mother, Nyanga, also loved singing.
And so on and so forth, sitting at the feet of my maternal grandmother, Nyanga, listening to songs and stories, telling about the past and where she came from, in a grass-thatched mud hut in Nyahera, Kisumu. Just picture in the distance 2 girls watching their father's cattle.
So I got really excited with the idea that this is traditional, we're going period, we're doing all that. And it also helped me a lot to understand my Luo tradition, a lot. Because there's some things you assume you know, and then when you go through the books and you read it and you go like, oh, that's interesting. I did not know that. So these are the fish. These are actually nail patch. This is why I was insisting on doing bead stuff, like all this, way in advance. I'm that child, when the maths teacher is teaching, I'm doing sketches on the desk. So it was something that almost everybody in my class knew that is what I wanted. I prefer to use foam because it's easier to manage.
Oh yeah.
It's easier to play around with. I was thinking of paper mache, and then I looked at the weather and I was like, it will take forever to have it dry. So are you okay with this design as it is, or do you need, because we're going to make similar, exactly?
Yeah. It looks fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In a previous chapter, however, BOT also produced Ondieki the Fisherman, that introduced Kenyan opera for the very first time to an East African audience. After developing the storyline for Nyanga Runaway Grandmother, Rhoda tasked the composer Mr. Francis Chandler, one of England's best-kept secrets, to begin work on the music and writing the libretto. Better known as Uncle Frank, Rhoda's former English teacher went out on a limb to ensure Kenya's second full opera was ready before clocking his 90th birthday.
Francis Chandler composed Nyanga a few years ago. However, Francis is in the UK and we're in Kenya. He uses a computer software program called Finale, and I use a computer software program called Sibelius. And they almost work together, but not quite. And so the files that Francis has sent us need a little bit of editing on my part, and that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping the music exactly as he wrote it, and so on. But all they will hear in rehearsals is the piano. Now, of course, Francis has orchestrated it.
Strategies to meet the creative challenges, plus scouting out for potential talent, begins to conform in earnest with technique and design.
So we are doing final read. Currently we are doing patch. Nyanga, we have the fast setting is, there is that song, Salute the Dawn. So we have to highlight that this is the beginning of that day.
That is the biggest question.
With that as your backlighting,
Whoa.
you'll be in silhouette.
Whoa.
Yes, you'll be in
You
silhouette.
get to do what you were trained to do now, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh.
And that's why I requested some lights so that we can be able to work with what we have at the theater, which we call the cyclorama or the cyc, so you can be able to paint the sunrise and the sunset. Sunset and sunrise.
Beneath the stage, the training of such skills to spare hands enhances the opportunity for the next occasion.
What Nyanga is doing is, you see, this is different from just doing opera by itself. Because we're not trying to do a bad opera so that we can tell people that, look, we've started now. We've started. Look at our small opera here, and then maybe one day we'll become a good opera. Nyanga is aiming to be a good opera now. We, as a people, might not be that ready. Now that's very interesting, because our job as artists is to convince the audience to agree to agree.
Agreement will help to accomplish much, though a rough road it is for luck. To make a good living through music alone in Kenya leaves many opting to teach in private schools where possible.
We have seasons where there's a lot of work,
and we have seasons where there's not any work. So it's that's why most of us teach, because if you rely only on productions, you can go for a year sometimes without seeing a production. So you better be teaching and earning some money somehow.
This has been at the expense of cultivating the proficiency needed in the performing arts.
Oh my God. Because everyone's been practicing in sections. We've been working with the singers on the music and the staging. The dancers have been working on their own thing. The orchestra is working on their own thing. So right now is the beautiful forest. It's so good. It's not even complete. So yeah,
I used a model from communication called the cultural onion, and one part of that is the 12 signal systems, or the 12 languages that we speak as humans. That is verbal, which of course could be Spanish, French, Swahili, Russian, but then all the other ways we communicate through movement, through touch, through color, through light, through artifacts, through pictures, through numbers, through written, through music. And I use that as my base of notation, I guess, of analysis.
I have got the ability to create the sound of the orchestra and to create the sound of the piano score, to create the sound of the singers' voices, so that in rehearsal the cast can download the audio files and then practice to them. And that is going to make life so much easier.
And then for some reason, you started rushing. I wonder why they hide it. I don't know. You need to give me a different color. Try again.
In Kenya, choir music and pop culture are commonplace. But in legato, some of these singers clearly wished to try out their classical vibrato. Finding enough trained voices who know how to hear their tone was just the first major hurdle. This is Charles, who auditioned for the Tinker. He also came to find his truth alongside Nyanga, who ran away from home.
I'm a tinker now, I make pans and pots, and I can ride a plane.
I became interested with the opera, so when I heard about there will be an opera audition, I decided just to go and try my luck there.
Tell us something about yourself, your music background, what you have done musically.
I've the desire to sing.
Yeah.
So I've just been checking them online or YouTube.
And what do you do for a living?
Sometimes I ride border and just casual jobs here and there. You may hear people singing beautifully from the YouTube, and my aim, I want to be like them. I want to train myself to sing like them. So I've just been listening to them, just trying to imitate them.
Nyanga Runaway Grandmother was performed mostly by local amateur singers, instrumentalists and dancers, many of whom had never performed in a theatre before, and fewer even knew what an opera was. The children taking part here were recruited from a school in one of Nairobi's slums.
Ready, act.
I've seen so many bad operas where the chorus don't know when to come in. Again, tenors ready.
We think it is ludicrous for Master Green.
Several people who said they could do fundraising for us, but this never panned out. You are embracing all art. You need the lights man, you need the sound man, you need the stage director, then the musicians themselves. They are not doing charity work as such. They also are paid. So when you put all that together, that was now a bomb for me.
The problem is that it is a horrendously expensive thing to put on, and so in many countries opera will be out of the reach of most people because they simply can't afford it for that purpose, for that reason. But here we are determined to keep the prices low so that anyone can experience opera.
So, from here on, I need everybody to pull their weight.
I'm used to melodies that are in one key longer than a minute or two before wanting to modulate or do whatever it does. But this one, you're in this and the tonality keeps changing. I was thinking, I'm just not able to do this. And I could also tell it from Shiro's face, disappointment. And, well, I didn't know how to go about it. I almost dropped everything. And it's in the fourth rehearsal that Shiro is saying, now I understand. I used to ask myself, why did these people arrive at you for Nyanga?
Just like Nyanga, Lindy broke out of her shell with a career just about to take off.
She took off, running after those missionaries through the jungle, sister in tow. 2 times they were found and taken back to their village. 2 times they took off and hid through the jungles after those missionaries who were making their way across the Kano Plains into the hillsides of Ogada to establish a mission station in Nyahera. Nyanga, my grandmother, was my first vocal teacher. 70 years down the road, her granddaughter is an opera singer.
As founder of Baraka Opera Trust, or BOT, Rhoda Ondeng Williamson has engaged with the ongoing curriculum discourse in the country about prioritizing investment in the arts. Since the early 90s, motivated to take Kenya's music onto the international stage, Rhoda is among pioneering African soloists to entertain royalty intoning her grandmother's songs.
When it comes to the singing, 2 years ago I received the Rikskonserternes debut stipend, and that was for me an encouragement to do some more work in singing. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Nyanga is a little bit of an interesting paradigm. You've got a foreign genre essentially, Western opera form, classical type music, but the story is very Kenyan.
I just think it's a very beautiful story, and I'm happy to hear this version of events from our side, from a very African side. So I'm excited.
For me, it demystifies the whole idea of African culture and how to be, the girl shall be proper. Do you? It's really inspiring.
Nyanga has come to save us from COVID because it's a story of hope. It's a story of desperation, a story of determination, a story of challenges that you don't see the end of, but being able to keep going through it.
The story is not a Western story. It's a story built from Rhoda's childhood. So it's very real. It's very tangible. Even this, we feel like we know her grandma now. We want to meet her.
And when she heard of the story, she said this should not die. I should connect the singing and the showing. So she made some pictures to go with the singing, and so the opera was made out of that.
Giving back to their roots, Shiro and Michael James, together with Rhoda, collectively cultivate this virgin pasture for the up-and-coming classical fraternity, where talent must be nurtured and regular performances are seen as paramount for the industry to grow. She is determined to expose these art forms also through the education of music teachers and to inspire an affection for standards of excellence.
By the end of it all, I'm a different person. Yes, I have more muscles, I have bigger biceps in this thing, and I wish there can be more and more. It's good that the art is being appreciated right now in Kenya. While we were telling people, inviting people for the opera, what's an opera? People are used to hearing soap opera.
I saw myself as the person who is just down there, because you could meet some people who have just come from university. You can meet people who are just talking English fluently. I was not used to that. I'm used to live with the border guys. Now, it's a new way of living. I think I can say it's a new way of living within Nyaga now, within the Baraka Opera Trust.
What I really hope is that whatever level Kenyan musicians achieve, that they would constantly be prepared to reflect and to think about how they can improve their skill.
Having such a great administrative team, producers, I'm not having to produce it. It's like my role is the stage, the end production. Like, oh, that's nice. I don't have to go chase money or convince people of anything or do the music organizing or music arranging or music teaching. I just can focus on the stage, the end result. So I really enjoy that.
Because when the synergy comes together, when the story of Nyanga, when people take part in the story and they hear the music and they see the spectacle, and it becomes a thing that then it develops a spiritual life of its own.
BOT has determined to expose this art form through the education of teachers as well, and to inspire the affection for standards of excellence. It goes without saying how there were more hurdles to surmount. However, the phenomenal experiences shared through to the point of constructing the show on stage. For everyone involved in Nyanga, the runaway grandmother, taking part in this community project was a transforming experience. Staging this opera despite rigid lockdowns and travel bans was nothing less than an undisputed triumph.